Joining us on the show, we've got Dennis Farrell, ready to talk some Wrestlemania 37, which happens tomorrow. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Now, what's up, Dennis?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Listen,
Hopefully my connection's good.
Yeah, you're all good. Now listen,
What's going on, brother?
I'm going to do this introduction for everybody, right? Okay, so not only now Tom Mazaway is responsible for introducing me to Dennis Farrell. So Dennis, because of my love of wrestling. Now Dennis Farrell, along with a lot of other things, but he is the mastermind to our faction called Wrestling Perspective Podcast, which I will be streaming on the Woodward Sports Network at some point. You can find it on Fight TV. But Dennis is not only a fantasy football guru, Pilar, he's also the wrestling guy, so Wrestling Perspective Pod. So that's why I wanted to have him on. I couldn't think of anybody else. So, and if everybody check out the Wrestling Perspective Pod, yes, you've heard me talk about it. That's with Lars Fredrickson, lead singer of Rancid, Dimitri Young, Jason Kendall, baseball players, Petey Williams, two-time TNA star, and Dennis and myself. And we've gone over this WrestleMania. We talk wrestling all the time. Dennis, I want to bring you in for this weekend. First off, overview on your thoughts of the 2 days of WrestleMania and the card of what it has to entail.
You know, people kind of forget right now, WrestleMania is going to be the biggest group of people together since COVID. They're going to have more people than the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl had 22,000. WrestleMania is going to have 25,000. So if people think that wrestling's dead or fake or any of that stuff, keep in mind, they're about to outdraw the Super Bowl this year.
Only because they're allowed, Denny. Come on now.
Well, they're allowed.
I mean, heck, I feel people would go to like a monster truck viewing right now because if they would open it up.
Hey, we were talking about.
But that's not true. I like WrestleMania.
We were talking about WrestleMania 3 a couple of weeks ago, of course, at the Silverdome, where they broke all the records. So I know WrestleMania is. I know it's the real deal, man, and I want you and Darren to have a good time with this. So, what are you thinking from Raymond James Stadium? It's going to be nice. It looks great.
Which matches, Dennis, are you looking forward to? And we'll leave the, we'll leave the Lashley McIntyre championship to the end because we can talk about how we think the swerve's going on and we can imply to people what a swerve is. But which matches are you looking forward to?
Man, I'll be honest. There's so much for this weekend that I'm excited for, and we talked about this the other night. And it's not so much the matches, but it's about seeing the people back. I know Maz and the rest of you guys are not wrestling fans, so we're going to kind of speak Klingon here to you guys. But for me, it's Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. This is a match I'm really excited about. I really can't wait for it. I think that if you're not a wrestling fan or you used to watch back in WrestleMania 3 or you might have seen The Rock or Stone Cold, take a few minutes, maybe get your free Peacock, 7-day trial and watch it and get engaged again because John Cena is mainstream now. The Rock is the biggest action hero in the 2000s. You've got, Dave Bautista, who's basically one of the biggest names in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wrestlers now are
Mike
becoming
the
more
Miz.
mainstream. So
Yeah.
take the Miz, yeah. If you like the Miz, I know some people don't, but
He's hard to handle sometimes, but
But the whole point
oh man, I'm sorry, I'm trying to drive and drop the phone.
Are you driving?
driving? I thought you were parked.
2 nights WrestleMania. I'm pulled over. Okay. It's a 2-night event for the second year in a row. I'm not a big fan of that. It takes away from it being special. So when I'm asked, because this is like the third interview I've done, and people want to know what I'm kind of excited about, I'm excited for it to go back to 1 night, so I don't have to break up my weekend to watch 2 nights of wrestling.
Yeah, well, dude, I could get into a whole thing about NXT TakeOver and wow, 2 nights of what we just had where if that's going to lead into it. Now, you mentioned Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, for people out there, that's the one where you're going to see probably Kevin Owens jump off of the pirate ship or do something crazy. There, the guy on the left's Kevin Owens, the guy on the right. Now, the thing is, these guys have all wrestled, for years and years and know each other. So it's the story that they want to tell. Obviously, the big one, to your point, Dennis, about the new star and the push, is the three-way triple threat match for the championship with Roman Reigns, who is the bad guy, but he would be, if you're looking for the next John Cena, The Rock in the middle. Roman Reigns is the Hollywood star. You have Edge on the right, the rated R superstar coming back, and Daniel Bryan, who, two of the greatest workers in the league. This could propel Roman Reigns to movie stardom because of his character in that. What are your thoughts? Do you think Reigns wins the championship, or do they give it to Edge and stuff like this, Dennis? Or do you think this is the push that you were talking about Cena, Batista, The Rock, and stuff like that WD does?
You set it up perfectly. And for people who aren't wrestling fans, they have to remember the fans hated Roman Reigns for the longest time because he was kind of like the Hulk Hogan and John Cena. They made him be the unbeatable good guy. Eat your vitamins, say your prayers. I'm going to, and the fans kind of rejected him. And over COVID, he backed out because he had fought cancer and, he kind of disappeared, came back as the bad guy or the heel. And since then, everybody seems to love him. So there's the backstory there. And with this turn in his character, I really think they're going to keep the belt on him because as much as we've talked on the podcast about Drew McIntyre and how Drew single-handedly kept the WWE afloat when there was no sports on. The only thing people could watch was wrestling. I really think Roman Reigns took it to the next level where he not only elevated himself, but the company with the way he turned. And I can't see them giving the belt to a guy who's been gone for 9+ years and Daniel Bryan, who's kind of the undersized underdog in this match.
Well, if you're behind the sceners, right, Daniel Bryan's sort of on his way out. He's one of the greatest workers of all time, more behind the scenes. The thing with Edge, that only thing is because Edge gave up his title 9 years ago because of injury. And Dennis, do you think that because what's the W being one night, WrestleMania used to be the Sunday where they do something crazy, but then on the Monday Night Raw, they'd flip it back right. I'm not expecting because of the commitment that, like you said, not only Roman Reigns carrying the second half of COVID, but also the character that he's developed. But let's go into the Lashley, Drew McIntyre, because this is the one that has the most intriguing. And why? Because if you've heard of the Hurt Business, right, where Bobby Lashley is the champion and Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander and MVP, where they're that faction, and they just broke up. When I mentioned the swerve, Dennis, can you explain, because you said Drew McIntyre, who's one of my favorites, the Scottish Warrior, was crowned last year at this time without an audience. How do you see this match going? And do you think, as we touched on, that there's going to be a swerve, and a swerve means that the WWE likes to feed you one way and then flip it around on you the other way? Are we in for a swerve here and the Hurt Business and Bobby Lashley winning, or are we in for another Vince disappointment?
I think it was you when we did our WrestleMania 37 preview show. I believe it was you were the one that said that, and by the way, as you kind of set it up, Bobby Lashley had this faction. He kind of broke it up. A lot of the fans, even some of the wrestlers, were upset about this. In wrestling, and it's not a secret, African-American wrestlers are not appreciated as much throughout the WWE company. They kind of have a history of racism, unfortunately. And I really think this is them trying to turn the corner where Bobby Lashley will keep it. You might have even said that the Hurt Business might swerve, a trick, come back together and, defeat Drew McIntyre, which I would like to see. Hopefully they can correct this mistake that they had. But once again, both of these guys are guys that deserve to carry the company on their back, basically having the belt. And I don't know if there's a winner and a loser that I would be upset with this in this match. Although I'd like to see Bobby Lashley carry this belt a little bit longer before they make the change.
One last question for me, and then I'd like Pilar and
I've
you
got
to
some
have
questions.
fantasy football.
Well, I've got WrestleMania questions.
Oh, you got WrestleMania questions?
Yeah.
Good. All right, I got to ask you this, all right? So for people out there, can you explain as the pure wrestling, because of the history, that if they want to watch a wrestling match that should be beyond something that they've ever seen, technically is Cesaro, Seth Rollins, and because of, give them a little Ring of Honor history about that wrestling, and, you know, if you can tie it in because you're really good at that.
So a lot of people seem to think the only name in the game in wrestling is WWE. If you're not in WWE, you're not a real wrestler. As we know, we have a common friend in P.D. Williams in Impact Wrestling. And there are a lot of phenomenal companies out there, and different companies focus on different kind of things. If you really want to watch mat wrestling, which is just, you know, amazing choreographed dancing, if you're into that kind of stuff, go watch Ring of Honor. I mean, the way they do it is above and beyond phenomenal. WWE has already come out and said many, many times that they're not a wrestling company, they're an entertainment company. And if you're into that, great. If you're into the pure wrestling, go check out Ring of Honor. I think Ring of Honor right now, as far as wrestling itself, is above and beyond #1 in the books.
And those two guys, why it is important, because they're graduates from Ring of Honor. So they'll take 20 years of wrestling together and make this match choreographed like a dance. It'll be like at the opera dancing or a play or something like that. These two guys here. And we hope the guy on the left, Cesaro, who's the Swiss Superman, who is unbelievable, we hope he wins.
All right, so Dennis, I've got a question for you. As somebody who's been in and out of the world of watching wrestling, when I was a kid, I watched all the Mexican wrestling stuff back in the luchador eras, which I still love watching. But then, you know, I grew up with guys like Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Austin, all these guys, and then I was out of it for a little bit, and then I got back into it. Remember the guys I see on Sunday night's matchup? Randy Orton's going to be fighting, and then Saturday, The Miz, he's going to be on there. So for people who were ever into the MTV era and know him from that, you guys also did mention the Cesaro matchup, which is going to be really good. But for somebody who's been in and out and can watch it, all you have to do, it's $5 to subscribe to Peacock, or you can get your free subscription. What is another matchup that you recommend for somebody who's been in and out of the world of the WWE and all this wrestling mania stuff to watch that can hook you back in?
You know what? I'm gonna give a little bit of props to the ladies here, and maybe go out of your way to watch Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, where you may know Sasha, you may not know. I think she's the cousin of Snoop Dogg, and they've interacted a few times before on WWE TV. I really think that this is going to be my personal sleeper match of the night, and both of these girls will tear it down. The storytelling has been phenomenal. You can always go on YouTube and watch the video prep packages where WWE, nobody can touch them when it comes to telling a story in a 30-second to 60-second video package. So go check it out. And look, go get the Peacock. I'm not getting paid by them, but if you don't like WrestleMania, then go watch The Office the rest of the night. It's okay.
I love it. That's,
Or the Munsters.
Or the Munsters. Or I Love Lucy, whatever it
Well,
is.
the Munsters are on Peacock. That's where I get them.
You do. Yeah. All right, that's Dennis Farrell. Thanks for your time, Dee. Thanks for not getting in an accident, so I know that you will be able to see our Wrestling Perspective podcast again.
Are you guys going to have a watch party at all?
Yeah, by myself.
I got you.
You can't watch with these guys. We're going to do that for when it's live. But I can't wait to have you back on when the fantasy football starts so we can learn something else.
Yes.
But thanks again, Dennis. Dennis Farrell. Check him out at Undisputed.
Thanks, Danny.
The app. So that's Dennis Farrell. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for indulging me at the desk or at home to give me a little bit of wrestling
There's
moments.
some
I
wrestling
love it.
fans that are online that love it. I have
Yeah.
a buddy, Darren Hill. He's like, he wants to go one-on-one with you guys. He wants you to have him on the wrestling show. Darren
Well, that's
Hill.
it. How about this? Woodward Sports Network family. Why don't you write some emails or whatever like this, and the quicker you get them, you want me to do a wrestling show on here on the network, the people get what they want.